Hello, everyone. Welcome to ETM 521, Culturally Reflective Instruction. My name is Melissa Thomas. I look forward to working through this next 8 weeks with you so that we can better explore what culturally reflective instruction looks like. In these first two courses, Social Justice in Education and Race and Ethnicity in American Education, we really spent a lot of time on just what are our biases? What do we understand? What do we believe? Where has that all come from? What is society telling us? Where are the barriers in society? And as we move into this course, we now take it deeply into the classroom. So we're moving beyond ourselves and looking at how those things that now we know about ourselves and about the barriers that have existed play out in the way we instruct students in the curriculum that is in front of students. So as we work into this course, it will be heavy classroom-based things that we will be working on and kind of doing more introspection about. We'll be working through this course similarly to all of the others, so you can see that everything is set up the same way it is in all of the other courses. This is to make you very comfortable and take away that barrier of the technology and the piece. So it should be very easy for you to move through. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. If links, happen to not be working, please let me know immediately. I really appreciate that kind of help. So as we work through this course, we will be looking at two different theorists, two different researchers, and that is Dr. Shiroki Hawley and Shane Safier. And I wanted to discuss just a couple of major things that you will be seeing in this first module in regards to both of these theorists or researchers. For Hawley, he is going to take this idea of vabbing and bring it into perspective for us so that we can better understand what this means. And vabbing stands for validate, affirmation, building, and bridging. So in validating students, this is when we legitimize their home culture and their language and the pieces that they are bringing with them. We know that we should never be stripping culture and being culturally destructive to students. And we also understand that home culture that they have may be very different than what we believe, and it may be in direct dissonance with what education culture looks like, right? So if we have a kid who goes home and doesn't do homework, for whatever reason, whether it's because he doesn't like to do homework, he's unable to do homework, mom and dad don't believe in homework, or home life is very busy, they work, they take care of other kids, those sorts of things. Those are things that would be directly in dissonance with American education, correct? Because we are a culture of believers in education should go with you everywhere, right? Those students who do the best in education are the kids whose parents have continued to educate them since they were born. And they read to them early, and they continue to push them, and they continue to take them places to explore and learn and grow. But that's just not the reality of all students. So we need to be careful as we are presenting things in our classrooms and guiding students in activities from making those sorts of assumptions about what education has looked like in the child's home. So validating means that we are legitimizing what students bring with them, whatever that case may be, home culture, language, religious culture and beliefs, those sorts of things. Number 2 is affirmation. And affirmation means that we are reversing those stereotypes, that we are allowing and providing alternate perspectives in our classrooms and listening to students. And this is a very difficult thing sometimes when we perhaps have alternate beliefs and we as teachers feel that we are correct. So affirmation means that we are taking what students know, we are listening to what they believe that they know, and then we are offering and accepting alternative perspectives. This is, I think, probably a lot easier to do at the high school level, I have found in my teaching career, because at the high school level we can have ongoing discussions. But what I'm learning is, as I've pushed down into middle school and elementary school also, that there are opportunities. It's just the wording and the way that we present those alternative perspectives so that we are not taking that home culture and smashing the home culture, going against that home culture in a way that would put the student or the parent or the community on defensive, where we are presenting an alternative perspective and giving another option for what that narrative should be. We learned a lot about counter narratives in race and ethnicity in American education. Affirmation is a piece of that, where we are taking what we think we know and providing that alternative piece to it. Well, here's another way people see this happening. Building just means kind of investing in your students. Like, how do we take what we've got in our kids and we build them up? and we continue to help them to get to whatever their next level may be, and where are they going to go. And that kind of brings us to bridging, where we're helping them to develop the skills and the knowledge that they need to go to their next placement. And I always like to think of these two kind of coming together in a form of pathways, where the pathway isn't always college, right? The pathway isn't always honors or AP classes. What the pathway looks different for multiple kids, and what does that pathway look like for these particular students or this particular student? Because students have alternate pathways and different ways that they will be able to go, and so we need to make sure we are developing as many of their skills as we possibly can to help them to get there. So that's Holly's overview of vabbing, and you'll learn so much more about it, and he takes this whole concept throughout his entire book. And the other thing that you're going to be introduced to in this very first module is the methodology continuum. I find that so difficult to say. Methodology continuum, where we have traditional instruction, responsive instruction, and then finally where we're trying to get to is culturally responsive instruction. So what I want to remind you is that on a continuum, you're forever going back and forth. There is never a stay in one place with a continuum. There's always some flow. And what Holly makes sure to tell us is that we don't want to look at traditional curriculum and think, or instruction and think that it's all bad, because there is a pocket of time where traditional instruction is great. There is a pocket of time where responsive instruction is great. And there is this overarching idea that culturally responsive instruction should be threaded throughout those. But we would hope that we would get to that ability to do culturally responsive instruction and stay there as often as possible. So those are the two major things that you will be encountering in this very first module with the Holly reading. And as you go through the book, you'll get a lot more of his theory, of his research, of his beliefs. And I think that the perspectives that he provides based on his research are extremely helpful when we're trying to figure out what might this look like in my area. As we move on to the next, what we are going to learn in the listening leader is all about data and how we look at data. And I know that everybody's hearing so much about data, and we have become a very data-driven and assessment-driven culture. And in a lot of ways, that's shut parents out of, and parents and community members out of the school system in so many ways, because what we are collecting is kind of like this private information, or the way it's being decoded is this private information. So what we want to do in listening leader is figure out how this information becomes our driving force for real, and not just, oh, we collected it, we looked at it, we analyzed it, but where does it take us? Also, how do we get more stakeholders involved in this kind of data? So we're looking at 3 different kinds of data. Satellite level data, think satellites up in the outer space looking at the entire world. This is our large portion data, and I think about this as being like your PSAT scores, your SAT scores, your state assessment scores. Things that are taking a broad swath of students and observing them through a particular lens. Your map level data goes a little closer to home, right? So this is something that we're looking at in maybe a district level perspective, or an English curriculum level perspective, or a science curriculum level perspective, or a technology education perspective. And this is all of your unit assessments, your end of course assessments, things like that. And then of course we get to street level data, and street level is what's happening to me on a daily basis. What am I collecting? What do I see happening in my classrooms? And we all are responsive to street level data on the daily, how we are planning our lessons and changing our lessons and morphing things to reach students. But we're looking at behaviors in that case, daily work, how are we meeting our daily objectives? And then, of course, what is the feedback from our stakeholders? What are we hearing from our students, administrators? What are you hearing from your teachers? What are you hearing from community members? Teachers, what are you hearing from parents? These are all of the things that at the street level we interact with and we act on much more quickly. So the questions that I want you to really focus on as we go through our modules, all of them, is what data are you looking at and what is it saying? What is it really saying to you? So those are just a really quick overview of what you will see as we go through Module 1. In Module 1, you will be reading those 2, and then there is just one additional reading, and then a couple of videos that I posted for you to take a look at. Now, this one right here is a keynote speaker option. And in that keynote speaker option, you'll see that it's a 62-minute video. You do not need to watch it all. I would suggest maybe putting it on sometime whenever you're hanging around the house, making dinner, or folding the laundry, or those sorts of things, just so you can pick up the tidbits that are necessary for you, but I find so much of it helpful when we're thinking about what culturally responsive and reflective instruction looks like. In the introduction to the module, take a moment and read through the 3 lenses. I put some information in there about it, and as we do our first optional online session, we will be discussing what these 3 lenses look like, and that'll be very helpful to us as we continue to look at our lessons and all of the things that we'll be building on. I've also added for you in that reading some of the characteristics of culturally responsive teaching, and you can read those there and take a closer look. When you get to the assignment for this particular module, we're going to be looking at that chapter 2 of Holly and looking at the methodology continuum, okay? And what I want you to do is to choose a 20 to 30 minute block of instruction in your class that you've already taught, something that you've already done. And I want you to think back through what are the things that you were able to do or what things did you complete. So I want you to be specific in your explanations because I wasn't in the class, so I want to be able to feel it and see it and understand it. This is a chance for us to actually start that reflection process. And I want you to start labeling within this lesson or this narrative of your lesson what was traditional instruction, responsive instruction, culturally responsive instruction, and then also what were your vabbing activities, okay? So if it did neither of those things, please, like if it wasn't validating or affirming or building or bridging, then just feel free to just let it go. It may be the case that those things didn't happen at that moment. Okay, so I gave you just a very quick example of what this may look like whenever you write it up. And it's going to be, again, you could do a bulleted narrative, you could do a paragraphed narrative, you could actually write it out like a lesson plan. It's totally up to you. Okay, and that's all due midnight, the very last day of the module. All right, so I really appreciate you taking time to watch the video. As always, if you have any questions, make sure that you reach out to me. I really look forward to going through this course with you. This is only the second time we're using the Listening Leader book in one of our courses. It will extend into ETM 525 as we go through, and we're just very excited about where this leads us and what are the things we'll be able to learn from it. All right, I look forward to seeing you starting class tomorrow. Thank you.